That's right. I'm here with Governor Moore. And Governor, you've been out here just nonstop all morning as well. We know that this has now turned from a search and rescue to a recovery mission. How long do you expect that recovery mission to go on, particularly with these weather challenges?
My heart is broken for these families, and we made a commitment to them that I said we would use every resource, air, land, and sea, for the search and rescue. And now that we've transitioned into a recovery mission, my promise to them is the same. We will use every resource to bring them a sense of closure. We think that's important, and we think these families have earned it.
I know you spoke to them. What was that like? What state of mind are they in right now?
And they're heartbroken. When their family members left to go to work, they had no idea that it would become deadly. They were filling potholes. And the thing that the families wanted to remind me was that these were husbands and fathers and brothers, and people who their families relied on. And so I let them know that the entire state, that we were going to be here to lift them up and pray for them and support them.
Such a devastating loss that we're all feeling with them as well. And then as far as the two that were rescued from the water, have you had an opportunity to speak with them?
I have. I had a chance to speak with one of them, and literally told the story about how the first responders, when they were coming off and telling people to come off of the bridge, and how as he was moving and going off of the bridge, he could feel a rumbling and then turn around and watched the bridge collapse right behind him. And so his is one of the lives that was truly saved by the heroic work of our first responders. And there's just countless people who, when they stopped the flow of traffic on that bridge, they saved countless lives that night.
They're the lives that were impacted by being on that bridge, and then the families as well. But there are so many other lives that are impacted, not by the traffic clogs, but also by the jobs at the port. What is the effort there to make sure that they can get back to work? And is there any sort of a time frame on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've already begun efforts for focusing on redirecting traffic, the utilization of 95 and 895. But then we have to remember that the port impacts about 14,000 workers directly and about 140,000 workers indirectly. That there have to be measures of support for these workers and protection of these workers. We also know that the economic impact of the port, that doesn't just impact Maryland. The reason that we've watched the country mobilize around Maryland at this point is because the Port of Baltimore is responsible for over 51 million tons of foreign cargo. That's the largest in the country. That everything from small cars to heavy trucks to agricultural equipment. We're the largest port in the country for that. And so the economic engine that the Port of Baltimore is, it cannot be overstated about what that means, not just to Baltimore and Maryland, but what it impacts, how it impacts the entire country.
But there are some everyday things that folks here right in Maryland may experience a clog on as well. Do you know any of those items that we look forward to every day that will get stuck in this port as well?
Every supply chain disruption issue that happened during COVID, this is exactly what we're talking about. Because the supply chain disruption that will happen from any type of backlog from the Port of Baltimore for everyday items, people who want to buy vehicles, people who are buying farming equipment, people who are just buying things via Amazon, this has significant impacts on us. And so that's why it is imperative and it is a top priority for me to make sure that we can get this flow going back, get this economic engine going, and have as little disruption to everyday Marylanders as possible.
President Biden pledged his support to Maryland for getting this bridge rebuilt, but that's going to take congressional approval. There is some chatter right now that they may not approve the full amount and that the state will have to kick out funding for that. Have you heard that, and what is your response?
I've heard it. The thing that I would say to them is this, is we need you to support the Port of Baltimore, not because you're doing us any favors. We don't need your favors, nor do we need your sympathy. What we need you to remember is the importance of the Port of Baltimore to the entire country's economy. That that our GDP relies on the Port of Baltimore. We're a top 10 port in the entire country, and so we're thankful for the support of the administration and the president. Both privately in his calls with me and also publicly has given his full throated support, and we deeply appreciate it. We also know that we need Congress to be able to support these efforts and know that don't do it because this is supporting Baltimore or supporting Maryland alone. Do it because this is a core part of Maryland's economic growth, of the country's economic growth.
You and I were talking, and you said, obviously your home is in Annapolis, but right now it's in Baltimore, and it will be for the foreseeable future.
That's right. I mean, I'm a Baltimorean, and I have Baltimore pride, and I know that we are Maryland tough, but we are Baltimore strong. as a country, as a state. And so what I want people to remember is this: at this time, and this is a challenging time for our state, but this is also a time when we are going to lean on each other, we're going to rely on each other, and we're going to build collectively, and we're going to be okay. But as a state, it's because we're going to do it together.
And then lastly, let's talk about those first responders that are out here. There's such a big effort, a collaborative effort from so many different agencies, not just with the first responders, but the NTSB investigators who told us they'll be boarding the ship today. What are you expecting or hoping to learn? We know you have some briefings coming up later today. What is top on your mind today that you would like to find out about what happened here?
Well, first, I'm in awe of these first responders. I'm in awe of the fact that literally as we're speaking, we got divers in the water in extreme conditions, doing something and just trying to bring a sense of closure to these families. And when we talk about the investigation, what I'm looking for, I want to know it all. I want to know what led up to this, what caused the power outage, what caused the inability for the ship to be able to steer, what kind of pressure did it take to be able to take down something as iconic as a Key Bridge? What happened in the response afterwards? So we're going to be on the ground. We're going to be coordinating marshaling efforts and marshaling resources, but we're going to be making sure that the investigation takes place, it is thorough, and gets to a proper conclusion.
Will you be getting on that ship as well?
On the ship, I don't have plans on getting on the ship now as well, but I'm anxious to be able to get to a final resolution as to what happened.
And one last thing, there are people on that ship. Any plans right now to get them off?
Yeah, I think the plan is that we have to be able to make sure we're just protecting the people and getting everybody off the ship, and I know that's a core priority for all the officials involved.
Governor Moore, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
God bless you.